What's up, y'all? Welcome to Original Gamers Cast. I'm your host, Patrick Ryan, and I'm joined today by Nolan Brown.
Hello, everybody.
And Joel Watt.
Hello, friends.
And this week we're going to be talking about Jak and Daxter, the Precursor Legacy. But before we get to that, how you guys been?
Good. You know, it's been a good week, but a lot of things.
It's been a crazy week for me, and I don't know. My job is just crazy, weird hours, but it's good. I'm glad to be. It's the end of the week. It's my day off, playing video games. Happy.
Right.
Excellent. Yeah, I just got over being sick, so I got kind of like 2 extra days off, which actually gave me a little bit more time to play the game we're going to be talking about.
Yeah.
So that was nice. It sucked being sick. Yesterday I spiked 102-degree fever.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, that was lame. But
no bueno.
But I took some medicine and had some soup. And a few hours after I got the fever, it broke. And then you've got that nasty sweat and all that stuff, but it felt better afterwards. So
that's good.
So it's all good. Yep, and got to spend some of that time playing Jak and Daxter, which before this I had actually never played before. I was not a PlayStation guy up until the PS3 came out. Like, my brother had a PlayStation 1, and yeah, I think he had a PS2. Of course, I had moved out by that time, but I was always the Nintendo guy, and through circumstances I'm sure we'll talk about later, wound up becoming an Xbox guy. It sounds like that wouldn't be an interesting story, but it is. But we'll talk about that. Talk about that later. But Nolan, you had played this game,
yes,
a while back. So why don't you talk a little bit about it?
Okay. Yeah, this was Jak and Daxter was one of the big games on the PS2 that I got, because it's when I actually got the PS2 when it first came out. But I was really bummed out because I wanted the GameCube, and my parents got me the PS2. I know that sounds really bad. I realize this, but I was like, man, I don't want because it had the DVD and CD capabilities. So they were thinking, hey, this is a better idea, which you could say it was. I mean, then later I got the GameCube, but when I had the PS2, Jak and Daxter was one of the games that it came with, because it was like a bundle thing. So pop this in, and this game was so much fun for me. It reminded me of Super Mario 64, which, if anyone's played it,
yeah,
the whole just action adventure 3D platformer. But what was nice about this one that I like is that there's not just there's the separate worlds, but there's no real loading time between each one,
Right.
So that was always cool for me, that you can just go and explore, and you find yourself in each individual section.
Yeah, there's no hub. It's just like a big sprawling world.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I really liked that. I expected it, since it is very Mario 64 like, or even Banjo-Kazooie.
I was gonna say, or Banjo-Kazooie.
Right. I expected it to be this here's an overworld, and you're gonna go to some sort of portal representation. And actually, at the very beginning of the game, which we'll talk about a little bit more when we talk about the presentation, but at the beginning of the game, the elder of the village, or whoever that is, he has that portal there. Yeah, the sage.
Stamos the sage.
He's got that portal there, and so I was like, oh, so this is going to be it. The village is my overworld, and I'm going to go find all these portals. And that was really the only time that happened, was it sent you off to this training area, but then you come back, and the rest of the world is already there. It's almost like when you played Grand Theft Auto 3 for the very first time, and you're noticing that other than cutscenes, nothing's really you don't notice anything loading. Obviously, things are loading because the game is
course.
huge and there's not enough RAM in the system to hold
Yeah.
all of that at once. But they did a fantastic job of masking it so that
Yeah.
you don't notice it, and that was
Yeah.
really neat.
Because I remember PlayStation 2 games having awful load times.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh man, I'm going to be sitting here for, hours waiting for this thing to load between scenes or levels. And it never happened.
No,
It,
Right.
and
it's
it only
it's
shows you
fantastic.
the name of the area you're in the first time you go in it. Like when you return
That's
to the
right,
area,
huh? It doesn't
the name
do it
doesn't
every
pop back
time.
up again.
That's true. I didn't even notice
Yeah.
that.
It gives you
Forgot about
even
that.
more that sense of a perpetual world.
Hmm. And even when you die, I guess the game
my
is probably
favorite things.
reloading your spawn point while it's going through that animation of Daxter making fun of you.
Yeah.
But you don't notice the system trying to load where you are at. It feels instantaneous.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
And that's another thing. Like I love the death sequences. That was one of my favorite parts of the game.
yeah, those.
Was just literally that. There's a couple times I just died. Just like, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have yet to see a repeat death animation.
I think I finally got one. He said like "Good night, Jack." The
Yeah,
second
Say
time.
goodnight, Jack. Yeah.
Yeah.
which the first time it happened, I was like, "That's funny," but dude, your buddy just died, and you're making
Right.
fun of him, like,
Right.
and he died trying to help you. What is your
Yeah.
problem?
Yeah.
Oh, but we'll get to more of that here in a little bit. A little behind the scenes stuff. It's developed by Naughty Dog. Some of you younger gamers definitely know that developer as the creators of Uncharted
The Last of Us.
for
And The Last of
PS3, The
Us.
Last of Us.
Which if there was a little Easter egg about Jak and Daxter in The Last of Us. And I forget, like in the mall area,
Hmm.
as you're going through the game store, you'll see like a little box for I think it was the HD collection of this of Jak and Daxter collection.
Okay,
Yeah.
a little callback there.
Yeah.
But they also, if you're an older gamer like myself, you might
Yeah.
know them as the original developer of Crash Bandicoot,
Yeah.
Yep.
which I believe Activision owns that license now. I'm not 100% certain. I know that it's
Possibly.
no longer a Naughty Dog property. That I'm
Yeah.
100%
Yeah.
positive of. And they made some older Sega Genesis games that, I didn't go look up what they were. I just know that they did, because there was one game where at the title screen, if you put in a button combination, like a code, the title screen would change and there was like a scantily clad woman on the title screen. I don't know what game that was, but maybe if somebody wants to look that up. I know I'm not making it up though. I know this is a real thing. I just
This is a real thing.
don't-
Trust me.
just
I'm
don't
not
know what
crazy.
the game is.
Huh.
So if somebody finds that out, we'll come back and tell y'all what it is. But it was so. This game, Jak and Daxter, was published by Sony Computer Entertainment. It was directed by Jason Rubin. I'm not familiar.
Yeah, there's something
name.
else that he did. Hold on, let me
Well,
find
he
it
did the Crash Bandicoot series on the PlayStation,
Okay.
Yeah.
and he
What was it?
hasn't done anything since Jak 3, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, he hasn't done a lot of stuff recently. Jak 3 I think is the last one.
He's just sitting on that Jak and Daxter money.
Yeah.
It's on some island somewhere.
I mean, apparently he's part of the he's involved in the Oculus Rift to a degree.
Oh, that's a
is that
sweet
what he's
gig.
doing now?
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that he hasn't been doing a lot of stuff as of late. But,
Yeah.
yeah.
But then the music is composed by Josh Mansell.
Yes.
I'm gonna guess that's how you say his name.
That's what I was calling it, so
Yeah.
I would assume so. He also did the music for Crash as well,
Okay.
amongst couple other things.
And those two game series are very similar.
Yeah, they are.
I would expect that a lot of the team from Crash was also involved in this series.
Yeah, a lot of them were.
Right. And then it was created by a gentleman, Andy Gavin, and the aforementioned Jason Rubin.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as I know, this series still... it's either still owned by Naughty Dog or at the very least Sony.
It's still Naughty Dog.
Yeah, even though they haven't done anything with it since that there was a PSP spinoff, right?
Yeah.
I want to say that was the last.
We don't need to talk about that, though.
Okay.
But was it... There was a Daxter, and then there was, like, just Jak, wasn't there?
There was Daxter. No. The other one on the PSP was... It was both of them. That it was a lot shorter of a game in the spinoff.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, it wasn't quite as good. I mean, there was some cool parts to it, but it made me sad because one of my favorite guns from the games they replaced was something else. Yeah, Lost Frontier. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they replaced like one of my legit favorite gun with something else, and it bummed me out. Yeah.
Yeah, that's always lame when you go into a game, even a spin-off game, expecting one thing, and you get something else. And you're like, what is this?
Yeah.
All I wanted was more of the original. Why did you change it?
Yeah.
Squaresoft with Final Fantasy. Sorry.
I could say that about Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. Like,
Yeah.
talk about a departure. Like, even Banjo-Kazooie Grunty's Revenge was more like Banjo-Kazooie than Nuts and Bolts was.
Yeah. So if you want to play this game, you can play it for the original platform, the PlayStation 2, which this game was released for on December 3rd, 2001. That's I don't know about, maybe back in 2001 the market was different, but I know when games today release between Black Friday and Christmas, that's not always a great sign. I like just recently Just Cause 3, I want to say, was released on December 3rd, 2015, and that was a big, like, why are they putting it out then? It's missing Black Friday sales. Though I guess I don't remember back in 2001 Black Friday being quite the event that it is now, so maybe back then that didn't matter.
Probably not
so much.
Yeah.
Or the easiest way to play this game is if you've got a PS3 or a Vita, you can get the HD collection that was released on June 18th, 2013. Disappointingly, that is not cross-buy.
Yeah, that would have been really cool. I'm kind of bummed that didn't happen.
Because I have a PS3 and I have a Vita, and I had to choose which one I was going to buy it for. And weirdly, the PS3 version on the PlayStation Store was $7 cheaper than the Vita version, so I went with the PS3 version.
I could see that, though. I mean, the Vita is portable.
Yeah.
So it makes more sense that it might be a little bit more. I mean...
I suppose.
Yeah.
But
it was probably harder to put it on the Vita. Like, it takes more memory or something. I don't know.
Right.
It
may also...
Because it is supposed to be an HD version of the game. Normally, portable games are less expensive.
Yeah. And I want to say the Vita has a 720p screen.
Oh yeah, it's definitely HD.
Yeah,
I don't think it's 1080, but yeah, I think it's 720.
Yeah. I don't know why it would be 1080. That would seem like a waste of resources.
You can't tell when the screen's that small.
Right.
Yeah, honestly, you can't.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the presentation of the game. I noticed right away it's got a very similar look to the game we talked about last week, Banjo-Kazooie. Very low textures on or if any textures at all. I guess maybe maybe Jack's hair has a texture on it, but like the rest of him is very flat. It's just a polygons like you would see in an old N64 game. But then the environment is much more detailed than the characters are. And again, that's I think I said this last week. That's not a bad thing. I kind of like it.
Yeah.
It gives the characters sort of a cartoon feel. It
Yeah.
allows them to be, especially their eyes and their mouth, a lot more expressive. Whereas if they had a lot of textures on their faces, especially for the hardware that was available to them back then, that might have been more difficult to animate and stretching those textures all over the place. I guess it might have been nice if Daxter maybe had some kind of fur on
Yeah,
him.
he is just like a flat polygon. I'm
Yeah.
looking at the cover art on the box, and like he's definitely got fur
Hmm.
in the artist rendering, but in the game he's just flat polygons.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just polygons. In the later games, he had that. There's more to do with that, but yeah.
Hmm.
Considering, this was very early.
Right.
Yeah.
So the story is very interesting to me so far. I'm only about 27% of the way through the game, but other than Daxter fell into this ooze and now we're trying to change him back,
Yeah.
I get the feeling that as I progress through the game, I'm going to unlock some sort of nefarious plot by those creatures that live on Misty Island. But so far,
Potentially.
it's just my buddy turned into a weasel-looking thing
Yeah.
because we were being idiots.
Yeah.
And now I have to go fix it.
I do think it's funny how Daxter looks better as an Otzel than he did as. I know that sounds really bad, but
Oh
like,
yeah,
Yeah.
like he looked weird. Like
Well, like, because I never played this series before, so I had no idea, like, Daxter was supposed to be the same species as Jack.
yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
the story starts out and there's these two guys walking along. I'm like, who's this short little ugly guy? And then he falls in and he pops out as the Otter Weasel thing. And I'm just like, oh, that's Daxter.
Yeah.
Okay.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. It was it's pretty good.
And considering you're in this mess because he carelessly fell in that ooze,
Yeah.
he does not help you a whole lot.
He doesn't.
He
like
just
your
kind of
weapon, like,
hangs out
straight
on
up.
your shoulder.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's your weapon. When you go to hit things, you throw him.
Right. I always
Yeah.
thought that too. It was like that he does that little extra damage with the spin kick or the punch.
Right.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, okay.
And he makes
Let
fun of
me
you.
grab my cat and swing him around by the tail. I'm sure that'll work real well.
Of course. And Cat will want to stay with you afterwards too.
Uh-huh.
Just
Right.
repeatedly.
Maybe I should try that with my dog. Give him a use.
What kind of dog do you have?
This podcast does not endorse animal cruelty
No,
in
Yeah,
any
I'll-
way, fashion,
Just
or
joking.
form.
This podcast is much parody.
Right.
Wow.
And then also when you die, he makes fun of you,
Yeah.
and it's like, dude, I'm dead. Why are you mocking me?
Yeah.
Please do not give the eulogy at my funeral.
I,
But I mean, like to the
or
player,
please
it's
do,
funny.
either one.
But
Yeah.
if you're like immersed in it and it's like, I just died, it's like, get up, you idiot.
Right.
Or he's like, he said something one time. He's like, can I have your things? I'm like,
Oh,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
have your stuff. Yeah. I'll tell there's one. Like, I'll tell Kira that you wanted me to be have her or something. It was like
oh
Mhm.
man.
there was something like that. I was like, that was great.
Oh yeah. Speaking of Kira, why doesn't she wear a shirt? Like,
That's right. That's not technically a shirt, huh? That's right.
It just kind of stops where it needs to.
Yeah.
As a bare midriff. Like, what the heck?
Well, that's definitely more of a shirt in this one than in the third game.
Oh really? It gets
I mean,
worse.
it doesn't get bad, but it's just she's older, and then, well,
Yeah.
I'm making it sound worse than it actually is, but yeah.
I guess I'll find out when I get to the second game.
Yeah.
which I conveniently own because it came in the HD collection along with the third one.
Yes.
Well, you guys got like the HD versions or whatever, or you might still have your original copy.
I
No,
used
That's
to.
true.
Yeah.
But
I had all of them, but
I had to go out to my local classic game store and buy them. And I don't have a PS3. I skipped the PS3, went from PS2 straight to PS4.
Ah,
Actually, here's a really crazy story. I never owned a PS2 until the PS4 was even out. Like
wow.
and
wow.
somebody gave me their PS2 for free because I hadn't touched it in 10 years.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, "Oh, cool. I don't have any PS2 games." And then you were like, "Let's play Jak and Daxter." I was like, "Okay, got to go down to the game store." And I picked up. They didn't have Jak 3. They had 1, 2, and the racing game, but they didn't have 3.
Mm.
Okay.
Ah, the racing game.
Oh,
Back in the days
that
when
game.
every cartoon mascot character for a console had to have some sort of Mario Kart clone.
Sonic R.
Oh.
Oh, I have that for
Oh.
PC, and it's so bad.
Oh. Oh.
It's so bad. The music is weirdly catchy, but the game
Like in Sonic
itself
Adventure. Yeah.
is terrible.
Yes.
Oh, but
Anyway,
back
Yeah.
to Jak and Daxter. And speaking of music, I gotta say, I haven't. It's not that I haven't been paying attention to it, but it hasn't left much of an impression on me one way
Yeah.
or the other.
it's just kind of like ambient music.
Right.
It kind of is, yeah. It's there, so it's not quiet, but it's which honestly, like I can say that can be good or bad depending. So I feel like it's bad because then you don't have music, and you expect the music to be there and all that.
hmm
But I like it as kind of good, so it's not like if you were actually doing this, obviously you're not going to have full music going out. So I kind of like that it's not like it's not this full thing. It's just kind of ambient. The background like doesn't distract you.
Right.
But
And
like I'm used to Banjo-Kazooie and Mario where like the music is
there.
almost iconic.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's definitely there. Like the first thing you hear when the level starts up is this amazing music.
mhm.
And you don't get tired of it either because Grant Kirkhope is an amazing composer and
Right.
knows how to make songs loop properly. And anyway,
Yes,
yeah.
very much.
Yeah, and I know that if this game's like if I went into the settings here after we recorded the podcast and played the game and turned the music off, I definitely notice it wasn't there anymore.
Oh yeah.
And I would miss it. But and I'm with you, Nolan. I'm not sure if like I wouldn't necessarily say it's a bad thing because if somebody started talking about a movie that I had seen several years ago and they were like, "Did you like it?" and I went, "Oh, I saw it, but it didn't leave much of an impression on me." I would say that's a bad thing because it didn't elicit any kind of reaction from me. I would almost think that if I hated the movie, that would be better because then at least I remembered it.
Yeah.
That's
and
true.
It bubbled something up in me. Whereas if I didn't have any kind of reaction to it at all, that must mean it was just kind of
Meh. Yeah.
So, but if the music in the game is meant to just be ambient and that's it, then I guess it's doing its job, and that's a good thing. So just because I wouldn't go buy a CD of it, and I just said buy a CD. Who does that anymore? Just because I wouldn't buy the soundtrack,
Yeah.
doesn't mean that that's a bad thing. It's just that's not what it was designed to do. Whereas obviously, Koji Kondo, when he sits down to write music, he's like, people are gonna remember this, and
Yeah, it's not like,
do.
I have the entire OST for some of those or something.
Right.
It's fine.
hmm
Uh,
Now, of course, the other part of sound is the sound design, the sound effects, and all that stuff, and that seems to be very solid. I like how the attack sound, which I don't really know if you call it a punching noise, since what you're
Yeah.
doing is chucking your buddy at them. But it's it's very over exaggerated, like a Looney Tunes.
It's very
cartoon,
cartoony,
and
yeah.
It
It's
is.
what you would imagine a comic book onomatopoeia to sound like.
Right.
Good old thwop.
Most. Yeah, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it makes that noise whether you hit anything or not, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like kind
yeah.
of like whipping sound.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was
Because
trying
what you're
to.
doing, you're punching so hard that you break the sound barrier,
Okay.
so it just has
That's
a
what-
sonic boom.
Obviously.
Of course,
Boom.
yes. Trust me, I'm an engineer.
I'm an audio engineer.
I went to school for audio engineering. I don't do it for a living, but because I was thinking back and trying to think of, is there any kind of audible cue that you hit your target? And I guess unless the enemy that you hit makes some kind of noise,
Which the lurkers usually do when you hit them. They make
Yeah.
that kind of grunt.
right?
So, I mean,
they grunt, and there's also the visual cue.
Yeah,
things
obviously.
The
Mhm.
barrels and boxes, they break open, and the enemies, jump back or they die and disappear.
Right.
So
That first time that I hit I don't know what kind of box the game calls it, but it had some kind of toxic stuff in it, and it hurt me. And I saw
Dark
it, and it's
barrels.
got that kind of biohazard looking symbol
Yeah.
on it, and I went, "This is probably bad, but I'm
gonna
gonna
do it
hit it anyway just to
I-
see."
I didn't even notice. I just ran headlong into it, and it hurt me, and I was like, "What the heck?"
And then you've got the boxes that have the bee drone things in it that you have to hit from above.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's kind of when the first time I learned that this game had the equivalent to the Mario 64 ground pound. It's just with his fist.
Also, there's the uppercut as well if you punch and then jump.
Yeah, if you crouch and then punch, yeah, he does an uppercut.
Wait, you can crouch?
Yeah, you press L1
It's like
or R1.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. While you're
like
running, if you
you
press
crouch-
the shoulder button, you do a roll.
Yeah.
It doesn't attack anything, and I don't think it even moves you faster.
Yeah.
But it's there.
Huh.
There's like the crouch jump, which like you jump a little bit
Yeah.
higher.
It's
If you're-
just like in Mario or Banjo. If you crouch first and then jump, you go up higher.
Yeah. Then there's
Okay.
like the roll jump, which like if you're running and you hit it, you roll, and then you jump extra far.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's like the long jump, but
Yeah, it's a long
requires a
jump.
little bit more. Okay.
Yeah.
See, that's information. Okay, so let's go ahead and go
That would have been
to
very helpful.
something that I
Sorry.
talked about with you guys right after I had first started playing it. Was I felt like the game was really holding my hand. Every time I came across a new item on the overworld, the game would stop me and do this sweeping pan of the camera over everything, and it would show me a bunch of these little egg shaped things. And
Oh yeah.
one of the characters, what's her name?
Kira.
Yeah, she's on that TV screen, which is kind of like this game's equivalent of Navi, only not nearly as prevalent because she only pops up very occasionally.
Yeah.
Whereas Navi from Ocarina of Time is just there all the time. But and she would explain to me what these things are, and the whole time I'm like, I really don't care. They're eggs on the field, and I'm going to go collect them. No matter what you tell me they are, I'm gonna go get them. And there's not, unlike say in Banjo Kazooie where there's 900 different types of things for you to collect. There aren't that
much
many things
three-
for
I think
you
it's-
to collect in this
There's the-
game, but it's very
there's orbs.
obvious when you come across something like the green. What do they call it? The eco.
Green
They-
eco gives you health.
Right. And all these things. And most of the time, it's very evident upon collecting it what it does. So I felt like I didn't need her to be constantly telling me about everything. But now you guys are talking about entire move sets that I have available to me that the game did not bother whatsoever to mention to me. And I'm like, see, that's the
feel
kind
like-
of information I would have wanted.
I feel like some of it should have told you during like the training grounds tutorial though.
In the first level where you're like on the beach,
Mhm.
I went to an area and Daxter was like, "Hit the pillars from below," and I was like, "Wait, how how do I do that? And so I crouched and I punched, and I
So
went,
that's
oh.
how.
Okay.
Okay, because I remember getting to that and him saying that, and I'm like, I don't know what you want me to do here.
Well,
Yeah.
I had figured out just from messing around that if I crouched and jumped, I would jump higher. So I was like, what if I crouch and punch?
Mhm.
And then I hit it, and I was like, oh, cool.
That's right. In the first one, it's crouch punch, and the other ones, it's like punch and then jump, and that's the uppercut.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. So they made it a little bit more combat easy, but yeah.
Well, now I'm gonna have to go back to that bridge, punch those
Push
pillars.
those pillars.
Well,
Ugh.
because at first I thought, okay, maybe, because especially older games, and I know this is not normally a problem in the time period that this game came out, but in a lot of older games, especially Japanese games, when they made their way over to the US, the translation wasn't always great.
Oh, yeah.
And so just because the game told you to do something doesn't mean that the game actually wanted you to do it. And so I thought, well, I doubt that's the case here because this is a Western developed game. So the first language of all of these people is English. I don't think that's what happened. But just in case, I'm going to go up above and do the ground pound thing on them and see if that's what he really wanted me to do. And nothing happened. So I went, well, I don't know what to do with these stupid things, so I'm just going to leave. That was I liked how that was kind of how you were presented with a puzzle is you'd stumble upon it and Daxter for some reason just has this knowledge of like the seagulls.
Yeah.
He tells me to go
Yeah.
chase the
That
seagulls
was
and
so
and
cool.
at first I thought like, okay, this is just a funny thing
Yeah,
that
me too.
happens,
So
no
did I,
big deal. And I didn't go do it. But then
Yep.
later I'm in the pause menu and it shows you here are the
Just like a Mario 64.
right, here's the things you've discovered that there's a puzzle for it. And so I look at it and one of them is called Chase the Seagulls and I went, "Wait, I'm supposed to go do that." So then I went and did it, and somehow the seagulls cause an avalanche.
Yeah.
And,
Power of seagulls.
and so that was really neat. And of course, in Mario 64, you jump into the painting, and there it is. Here's the star you're going after. The
Yep.
title of that star is a clue as to what you're supposed to go do. And so that was really neat how they worked in it organically. And it doesn't even stop you. It just happens. And in fact, if you were playing with the sound down for some reason, or you just weren't paying attention, you would totally miss it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they never repeat themselves either.
Right.
Which
He
is
just
kind
says
of-
it once and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's really neat. And of course, outside influences for this game are very obviously other 3D platformers that came before it. Super Mario 64, Banjo-Kazooie.
Yep.
I guess, Crash Bandicoot, which of course is another Naughty Dog game.
Yeah.
Donkey Kong 64, the ultimate
when they started-
collectathon.
When
Yes.
I remember seeing that, like when this game was when they were still in production, they took a lot of stuff from Donkey Kong Country, like the what's his name? I already forgot. The director, he took a lot of stuff from Donkey Kong Country and like kind of took it from there. He
Right.
said he took a lot of inspiration from it.
Well, when you mentioned that you can roll forward and jump farther, that's
Yeah.
something you could do in the original Donkey Kong Country. In fact, in
Yeah.
that game, you could roll off of the edge of a platform, and as long as you jumped soon enough in the middle of your roll, you could get like a second jump out of it and
You would
farther.
jump in the middle of the air.
Right.
Still make the gap. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Well, another thing, I don't know if you were talking about, you missed some of these other things. If you do the spin jump in midair, you kind of get a little further jump.
Yes, I figured that out.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as soon as Kira was like, if you collect all 7 flies, they'll have found a power cell. And I'm like, this is Banjo-Kazooie and the Jinjos. You collect 5
straight up.
Jinjos and you get a Jiggy. Like,
Straight up.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I think it's funny that, I mean, I realize this is how it is in this universe, but you would think if you were looking for these bee drones in real life, okay, one of these bee drones has the thing I'm looking for.
Yeah, right.
Well, in this game, no, the one that has the thing you're looking for, the power cell, is always the last one that you
Always
find.
because video games.
Yeah, because that would be fair if it was the first one.
Well, right.
Oh, dang.
Well, but yeah, because if I stumbled upon the one that had it, I'd be like, okay, forget the other ones. I don't
Pretty
care.
much. I mean,
Yeah, and those poor other 4 bees would just be stuck there in their boxes forever.
yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much.
I did figure out when looking for them that there's an audible cue when you get near one.
Yes, there is.
Kind of like a buzzing sound.
Yeah.
Which and I don't think I noticed that until one of the more recent ones that I found, because it was the first time I noticed I was near one but I didn't see the box. Because most of the time when I was like, oh, there's a box nearby, it's because I laid eyes on it. And there was one time I was going over a bridge and I hear a sound. That must mean there's something here. And I was like, I can't believe I didn't notice that these bees were making this noise before. But that's because I found the box. And so that was really neat. And I know other games do it, but the only other game I could think of right off the top of my head that I know is kind of famous for that is in Metroid Prime. Anytime you're near a suit upgrade, and not like a big suit upgrade like the morph ball or something, but missile increases or energy increases, there's an audible kind of like a hum that you can hear.
Was there?
And what's maddening?
I got the trilogy for the Wii. I got nowhere in it because I bought a new game and then obviously I forgot about it, which happens, which is sad. But
but yeah, there's this. It's kind of a low hum, and especially depending on what part of the game you're in, it would almost sound like it's part of the environment, and you wouldn't even notice it. But what's maddening about that is, of course, if you've played a Metroid game, just because you can see it doesn't necessarily mean you can get to it right away.
Yep.
So you'll hear this noise and you'll think, oh, there's an upgrade nearby. I need to find it. And you can't find it. And it's not because you're not looking in the right place. It's because you need to play the game another 7 hours and then come back and do it again.
Yes, you have to come back for it. I remember in the first Metroid Prime, there's a missile upgrade in the first area you go to. And you can't get it until 4 hours later into the game. And it was so frustrating to me at first.
And it's just they're mocking you, like, haha, you can't get me.
Which, it sounds a lot like in the Arkham games, trying to find those Riddler trophies.
Yeah, it's the exact
straight up, just like, oh, that's here. But I don't have the explosive gel yet, or I don't have the bat claw to yank that down.
I don't know that I can fly through wooden panels. That took me a while to figure out.
Yeah.
I saw one of those. It's just behind chain link fence or something.
Yes.
And I'm like, dude, Batman doesn't have a way to cut through this. Come on.
Yeah.
What is going on?
Straight up, I'm like, no.
Come on. Why doesn't the explosive gel work on the fence? How about that?
Yes.
All right. Hey, how about we talk about Jak and Daxter?
Right.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
We're talking about old games, not new ones.
So, another thing I like about the game is they kind of talk the different eco and what all of them do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there's 5. I mean, technically there's 6, but the last one doesn't come into effect till the very end. But there's the green, which is health. The blue, is basically PF flyers in energy form.
Mm-hmm.
For all of you that get
That's an old reference, dude.
Yes, it is. Or inactivate stuff, and then there's the red gives you damage boost, and then I don't know if you guys have gotten to that point yet, but there's the yellow, which you can use to shoot fireballs.
Okay,
Yeah,
I knew that there was some kind of shooting mechanic because when you go into first-person mode, it gives you a crosshair.
Yes, and that's the only use for it, and other than that, it's completely useless for first person. But yeah, it's there's the shoot that. But
yeah, I haven't seen the yellow yet.
Yeah, neither have I.
But speaking of the dark eco, So when you go to Misty Island, you can go back to the area where Daxter falls into the stuff and turns into that animal. But when you fall in it, it just kills you.
Yeah, it just kills you.
And I'm
And
like,
there's
how come I don't get a cool animal thing I turn into?
which is funny because they talk about it in later games. They like the reason why that happened to
Okay.
Daxter. Like legit end of the third game. But
Yeah, because I've seen the box art for the other games. He doesn't turn back into a humanoid.
Nope.
He stays an animal. What the heck?
Yeah,
it
and that
explains why later on. Yeah, it's just like
right, and that is an unfortunate side effect of playing these games later.
yeah.
That I got thinking of. I know that at least right now my goal is turn my buddy back into a human or whatever it is that they are, and I know because the other two games exist that either I succeed and something happens in the second game that turns him back, or I don't succeed in that mission, but whatever other like bigger plot comes up, I guess I'm obviously going to succeed in, and that's a little. I wouldn't say it's ruining the game for me or anything, but it definitely changes the way I think that I'm playing it. Whereas if I had played this game right when it came out, when the game ends and whatever happens, I would have this moment of, oh,
Yeah.
that like I just found out Darth Vader is Luke's father
Yeah.
moment that I'm not going to get to have because I live in the future. And
Yeah, exactly.
I can see the future.
So,
Like talking about Misty Island, just real quick.
mhm.
Like like the obvious bad guy villains. I just recently found out while like checking some stuff for this, the voice of the guy is D. Snyder.
Really?
Really?
Yes, I was like, what? Which
Really?
yeah, like
That's
straight
crazy.
up, like whoa. And which those of you that don't listen to classic rock, he's the front man for Twisted Sister.
Yes.
I'm like, oh my gosh. I thought that
Dee
was
Snyder is a video game character.
That's
okay.
hilarious. And you
Yeah.
know that someone at Naughty Dog in a meeting one day was just like, it'd be hilarious? We should get Dee Snyder to voice this thing. And then
Right.
Sony was like, okay, sure.
Yeah, because they have their music label. So
Right.
so some accountant or something who has connections is like, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah. It's
And then some poor guy at Naughty Dog the whole time was just, I'm your biggest fan. I'm your biggest fan. I'm so honored to meet you.
Yeah, I bet the sound designer was just like fanboying the whole time.
Right.
well, I'm sure.
I mean,
That's
I got to work
funny.
with Evan Wickham recently. I don't know if you know who that is. And I was just in
Oh
heaven.
yeah.
I was having a lot of fun. He's so cool. Like,
Nice.
I don't think, who is that? I might.
have you heard of Phil Wickham?
The name sounds familiar.
Yeah,
He's
Phil
a-
Wickham is a pretty popular recording
Christian-
artist in the Christian
Christian
scene.
recording artist.
Okay.
Yeah.
Evan Wickham is his older brother, and he does more worship music.
Yeah.
But yeah, so my pastor was this high school pastor at the time. Evan Wickham was a junior high pastor, so they're old friends.
Okay, cool.
So he's like, "Hey, Evan, anytime you want to come on out, you know."
Yeah.
So yeah,
Well, I'm sure I've probably heard him on K-Love or something.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's got a few albums out there that
Mhm.
people will know of. Anyway, that was such a tangent. I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
But yeah,
That's what
so
we do.
back to D. Snyder. Like, if I were the sound designer on this game and D. Snyder was
Oh my gosh.
doing lines, like, I would be like, dude, I want your autograph.
Yeah.
Let me go get a Twisted Sister album right now.
I'll be right back. Yeah.
Get him to sign a Twisted Sister album and a box copy of Jak and Daxter.
Yeah,
Like,
seriously.
when it ships.
Right? Yeah.
Next time they're in town, I'm going to take my copy of Jak and Daxter.
That's awesome.
Uh,
Oh. So, moving on to the cultural impact and the personal impact in our own lives. Obviously, as I mentioned, I had not played these games until we decided to do this podcast. So the impact this has had on my personal life is fairly minimal, as in the last 3 days.
Yeah.
It did keep me company while I was sick. So that was nice. Some of my more fond memories of playing video games are I was sick and I couldn't go anywhere, so I popped in a game and played it, and now this gets to join the ranks of a lot of classics for me, and I'll always have that memory. When I'm in my 80s and going senile, maybe one day in a random conversation I'll bring up Jak and Daxter.
Just because.
So thank you, Naughty Dog, for keeping me company.
You're gonna be talking to some little kid. I played this game once, and he's gonna be like, "You had to use your hands."
That's a baby's toy.
Yep. Thank you for getting the reference.
Yeah, I got it.
It'll be my my Cranky Kong moment.
There you go.
Back in my day.
I beat the game in 3 hours. Oh gosh.
We only had 2 animation frames for everything.
Yeah.
Oh, so but Nolan, I imagine this, since you've been playing this had a much bigger impact on you.
Yeah, just a little bit. I mean, I'm sure there's pictures somewhere that my mom may or may not have, but when this came out, I was still pretty young. Yeah, I was still 10, almost 11, and for I think the following Halloween or something, I may have dressed up as Jack with, all that stuff.
Please tell me you had hair. Did you have like a paper mache Daxter attached to your shoulder? That would be awesome.
No, that would be great. No. I'm pretty sure I dyed my hair though. I'm pretty sure I had that yellow green thing going on.
Well, like you're blonde already, right? Like,
it's dirty blonde.
Okay.
Yeah, darker brown, dirty blonde. Yeah. If I was outside
that's
more.
Pretty cool. You dressed. I don't think I've ever dressed as a video game character.
Yeah, I've done it a couple times. Like I think the one after that, I was Sora from Kingdom Hearts.
Man.
I did that. I actually made a Keyblade for that. That was like I went into much detail for that.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
But yeah, Jak and Daxter was one of the early games for the PS2, and then which the first one actually, like, it's, as much as I do love that game, it was my least favorite besides Final Frontier. Yeah, this was definitely one of my favorite games growing up, and it got me to actually want to play the PS2, and like, cool, this is something. Like, after that, there was a couple games like that I had never heard of that turned into good games later on. Like, my mom bought me some weird game named Ico that, if you know what that is. Yeah, like, legit, yeah. It was...
The game's so good.
Oh, of course, at the time, it was the most boring thing ever because, it wasn't Jak and Daxter or Zelda where,
right.
No music,
doing that stuff. Yeah. It was very boring to me at the time, but, when I go back and replay, I'm like, oh, this game.
Game is a work of art.
Oh, yeah. When people want to argue that video games are not art, I'm like, you have apparently not played Ico or
Shadow of the Colossus, Journey.
Yeah,
all those games. Like,
yeah.
So, which if you guys listen to any of IGN's podcast, one of their personalities on there, Brian Altano, is he and I feel very similarly about the game Journey, in that it's not so much a game as it is a press up to win simulator, and that it's a really cool experience, and if you have it laying around, you should or can afford to buy it, you should definitely give it a shot because it's awesome. But I think it's weird to call it a game.
That's what I've heard, that a lot of
it's
people
an interactive experience.
Right. It would be like calling, well, even a game like Gone Home, there's still a lot more interaction for you to do than, but anyway, we're tangent again.
Yeah.
So,
again.
I'm sure. Well, Ico, I've heard it called Ico, I've heard it called Eco, but that game was on PS2, so it actually would qualify for being on this podcast at some point. Yep. So
yeah.
I'm sure with it being the masterpiece that it is, that we'll get around to playing that eventually. So, Nolan, you're a bit younger than Joel and I. What was your first game console? I'm just curious.
That was officially mine, or that was in the house?
That was in the house that you
That you
got to
remember
play
playing.
regularly. Yeah.
That'd be the NES. And
Okay.
first one I remember is, I don't know, it's pretty close between the original Zelda and the Super Mario Duck Hunt
Mhm.
cartridge, which to this day I still qualify that Duck Hunt cartridge is what made me pretty good shot with the shotgun. Like, to this day, I
won't
claim
argue
that
that.
very
That
much.
is very true.
Yeah.
Like, you can joke about it, but like, it's like, yeah, like just growing up, just a boom, boom, boom. But yeah,
Mhm.
so that was my first console that we had. Granted, that was around 6 years before I was born, but
Yeah.
I share the birthday with the Super Nintendo.
Okay.
Yeah,
So then, what was the
Born
first
day that the Super
console?
Nintendo came to America.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Wow.
So then, what was the first console that was yours?
That was the N64. That
Okay.
it was a beautiful. I remember it vividly that Christmas. It was.
Yeah. Were you that the N64 kid on
I
YouTube?
no,
Have you seen the cartoon
No.
where there's a monster eating them?
No.
Oh gosh. Yeah, somebody animated the Nintendo 64 video, and the Nintendo 64 is like a giant monster, breaks through the wall, and like you hear the kid, he's just screaming. He's not saying words the whole time. He's just Nintendo 64, ah! And you hear the little sister going, "Thank you, thank you," and she's like thanking the monster for eating her brother. It's amazing.
to watch that afterwards.
Oh, sorry. Again, tangent. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Go watch it. I'm gonna link it in our Skype chat.
All right.
Definitely. That sounds amazing.
Yeah. I had the N64. There was the came with Mario Kart, obviously,
Mhm.
and then in addition was like the last thing I read was this silver cartridge that had a shield and a sword on it that just said Zelda,
Mhm.
Ocarina of Time, and
Yeah.
oh,
So good.
oh,
Those were the days. That's why we do this podcast.
yeah.
So we can relive
So we can
memories.
Like, I legit remember the pajamas I was wearing. That I vividly remember.
Wow.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
I can't remember what I did yesterday, much less the pajamas I was wearing.
Something from nearly 20 years ago.
Yeah, pretty much. Actually, yeah, almost 20 years ago. Yeah.
But anyway, that's why we do this podcast, to relive our childhood and introduce you guys to games that maybe you missed, and even sometimes ourselves, like me with this past one, and even with last week's, because even though I had played, like I said last week, I had played Banjo-Kazooie, but did not own it, so it's a good opportunity to go back and play it. I say that as even though I didn't play it last week to prepare for the podcast. But speaking of that, next week's game, we decided to figure out which game we were going to play for the next episode ahead of time.
So that way
we
someone
can,
doesn't sit there like, what should we play?
Right.
I should think of something quickly. Oh, yeah.
Right, so we're avoiding dead air, but then we also can tell you, listener, how you can go play that game if you'd like to play it along with us. So we're going to play Halo Combat Evolved, which that might be the newest game that we're playing. Let's see.
Is it?
Well, no, this one came out in 2001.
Yeah.
I don't remember when the original Xbox launched, because I know it
Came
in
out
the
after
game,
the PS2.
yeah, it and the GameCube were very close together, and they were after the PlayStation 2.
Jak and Daxter is about 3 weeks newer than Halo.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. I know it was around the same time, because
Right.
I know
Yeah.
a lot of the good PS2 games came out that holiday.
Halo
like
actually
Xbox
made
did.
the Black Friday for 2001.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whereas Jak and Daxter didn't.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so if you've got an original Xbox laying around, you can of course play it on that. That was the console that it launched for. If you have an Xbox 360, thanks to backwards compatibility, the Xbox version of the game is compatible with that. You can download the Xbox original game from the Xbox 360 store. And then, of course, there's also the Anniversary Edition, which came out for that a few years ago. If you have an Xbox One, there's the Master Chief Collection. I'm going to say that that's probably the best way to play the game. I have the Master Chief Collection. I also have the Anniversary Edition, and I also have the Xbox version. I love this game. Really, the only version of this game I don't have is the PC version, which you can also still get that from the Microsoft Store. But if you get it for the Master Chief Collection, of course, the online community still somewhat exists. Probably mostly made up of people who were upset with Halo 5, and I'm one of those people. So
Cough. Bitterness.
Right. So if you get the Master Chief Collection, you can probably find me playing the original Halo online. And the version that's on the Master Chief Collection is just an upport of the Anniversary Edition that came out for the Xbox 360. If you haven't played a Halo game, I highly recommend that you do. The vastness of that world and even the cultural impact, especially if you're a gamer, is it's almost I hate to say this because it's gonna sound sacrilegious. It's almost Star Wars levels of and I mean, I get that you know, like Star Wars has hands in everything, and whether you're a big movie buff or not, you probably know Star Wars, whereas Halo doesn't quite have that reach. But if you're a gamer, Halo has affected your life one way or another, even if you haven't played the game.
Yeah, no, I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
There we go. The Star Wars man himself.
Yes.
Agrees with it.
It is that grand in scope. So definitely play it if you haven't. That's what we're going to talk about for the show next week. I think that's going to do it for this week, unless you guys had anything you wanted to add.
I think so. I mean, let me look at my notes. I think I went over everything I wanted to say. Probably. I mean, I could keep talking, but no.
Well, the show has to end at some point.
Like,
yeah.
Make it somewhat easy on LJ.
I had planned on watching some, like, Did You Know Gaming videos on Jak and Daxter, because I know they've done at least one.
Oh, that's a good idea.
I didn't think about that.
But I never got around to it. This morning I've been weeding, and I have to go right back to it as soon as we're done.
Yeah. I don't know why I didn't think to do that for this, because while I was playing the game and thinking of things to talk about, I recalled a few months ago one of the guys from Naughty Dog put out like a history of Naughty Dog blog post, and in that it was very Crash Bandicoot heavy.
I'm sure,
because I think that's kind of when
that's the flagship.
Yeah, they
the
really made a name for themselves. And he told a story of they were at a convention. It might have been E3. I don't remember, but they were showing off Crash Bandicoot for the very first time, and at the same time, Nintendo was showing off Super Mario 64 for the first time. And he talked about Miyamoto came over to their booth and played Crash. And he got to sit and watch that happen, and then he in turn went over to the Nintendo booth and played Mario 64, and that was a really neat story.
That's pretty cool.
I was like, man, if I were a game developer, that would be like my dream would be to have the godfather of gaming.
Yeah,
Miyamoto and like the head of Sony Games or whatever, they're good friends.
They legit are. I remember reading that. Yeah.
And like.
Miyamoto was one of the first to get the
Shuhei Yoshida, is that how you say his name?
Yeah, that guy. Anyway, he's owned like every Nintendo console ever, and Miyamoto has owned every PlayStation console ever. Like, and they play each other's games. Like,
I've always wondered if those guys, like, at the end of the workday, they go to whatever the equivalent of a pub or something in Japan is, and like maybe like a sushi bar. That sounds really touristy, though. I don't know.
Like they don't have regular bars in Japan.
Completely wrong.
No,
but,
he goes to a sake bar. How about that?
Yeah.
Right, there you go.
Right, but if they like hang out and especially back when I don't know much about the current president of Nintendo, but I could see uh, the late
Iwata.
Satoru Iwata doing that because
Oh yeah.
they all seem like they were very friendly
Yeah.
individuals, and likewise, I wonder if I know the culture here in America is not quite like that, but I could see like Reggie Fils-Aimé and Phil Spencer hang
Yeah,
out.
dude.
You know,
Like
I'm
those
sure.
guys seem really friendly, and
Yeah.
I bet they would get along with each other just fine.
right. So, anyway, more tangents. Welcome to
Welcome to
Original-
the Gug Life.
That's
I was
right.
gonna say.
Original Gamers Cast. No, we have to say GUG or we get in
Right.
trouble.
Sorry, Drew.
Anyway, that's this week's episode. So go play some Halo Combat Evolved. And actually, since I mentioned it, look me up on Xbox Live. I'm huge cow patty. Yes, there's a story behind that. Maybe I'll tell it next week.
You should.
But it sounds
Does it have to do with Halo?
no, not
I
at
think
all.
the
But
June-
I was really
but the first time I ever used that name was signing up for Xbox Live on my
Okay,
360.
so we can
So
talk
it's
about it then.
yeah, it's somewhat related. But yeah, it's spelled just like it sounds. There are spaces in the words, so it's not just huge cow patty all run together, separated.
No, it's not like it sounds. It's Patty as in the name Patty. Not.
Yeah. Patty.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's it. Have a good week. We'll see you later.
Later, man.
See you next time, everybody.
Real quick, something about your voice just changed.
Yeah.
I noticed that. It's like,
Did you hit something or?
puberty? I don't know.
That's a
I don't
blooper. That's great. Anyway, no. Did you switch microphones or something?
I'm holding my microphone because my desk is cluttered up, so it's like, oop. There we go. Holding the mic as
There
opposed-
you
I don't
there
have
you
it
are.
down somewhere. Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
It probably like came unplugged a little.
It did. I noticed the light went off.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
I was like,
like
your sound
instant.
quality got awful all of a sudden.
So you're gonna have to say
Yeah.
what you just said over again.
What part? I'm sorry. When did I cut out?
I don't know because as soon as your voice changed, I stopped paying attention to what you were saying and started paying attention to how bad it sounded.
Yeah. LJ, can we play it back?
Yeah. Can we get a?
I don't know if he can do that
Like-
without stopping it.
Yeah. Yeah, I figured.
Um,
Okay.
I'm sure
Um,
you didn't sound bad very long, so I'm sure if he cuts it out,
Yeah.
it won't be that big of a deal. So
No worries.